Hey guys, this is Dave Green for West Virginia Astronomy, and we're going to talk about planning. Going to attempt to get the Orion constellation rising over the scenic highway. It's a pretty simple shot, I think. It's a pretty simple composition. I have a pretty good idea of what I'll do, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity for me to talk about the planning process. With every Nightscape image, you have to realize that there's sort of three parts to making that happen. There is the planning, step one, and then of course step two is actually taking the pictures, the shoot, and then the final is the processing of the picture and putting the image together. These images are sort of part science, part art. I don't do composite images. In other words, I don't take a sky from one place and stick it somewhere else. And so with that, it's important to have a good plan. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to take a drive here this morning, and we're headed up to Marlington. We're going to drive across the scenic highway, and we're going to sort of scout. I think I know where I'm going to shoot tonight, but I might change my mind based on what we see throughout today. So let's get to it. We're up here on the Highland Scenic Highway. It's a super interesting stretch of road that runs from Richwood, West Virginia, around more or less to Marlington. Beautiful. When you cross, I think it's Route 150. There's no stores, there's no houses, there's no gas stations, there's no power lines, and in the winter, it's not maintained at all. Been plenty of people trapped up here, so you really want to watch, but it's not necessarily something you want to risk in the dead of winter. But it's about mid-November, and we've not gotten too much snow, so the roads weren't terribly bad, but you did see there was some snow on the road coming up. But check these views, baby. Doing some scouting here, and I think this is where we're going to shoot. Hopefully we won't get ran over. It's not too much traffic on this road, but the idea is to shoot straight down through here. Orion will sort of be Orion's nebula, and the constellation there will be on the right side of the photo, sort of what is referred to as the winter Milky Way. Will come up about the center of the frame. At least this is just based on what research I've done. I will probably shoot the foreground a little closer to the tree there, coming up over the horizon, and then we'll have to back up probably around where my truck's parked here in order to shoot the sky. We'll be tracking the sky, so we want it to be as accurate as possible, but at the same time, if we track through that tree, it's not going to work. So we'll just move uphill just a little bit to get a good clean sky, and then we'll try to place it as accurately as possible in post-processing. So we're here at the very luxurious Marlington Motor Inn. It is pretty cool. They let me check in early. When's the last time you got into a hotel room with one of these babies? Okay, so we're going to jump into planning here. We're going to be using 3 programs. We'll use Stellarium, we'll use Google Earth, and we'll use PhotoPills. There's not necessarily a particular place to start. It's more about the shot that you're trying to get. Are you focused on catching a particular object in the sky as it rises or it sets, or are you more so focused on a particular subject, a mountain, a building, and of course maybe you want to get an interesting sky behind it, and then you would have to look at, you know, maybe where you need to be positioned to make that happen. So for this particular plan, what I wanted was to catch the Orion constellation as it would rise. And so I'm going to start in Stellarium here, and it will give me this sort of foreground if I want it. Typically I will turn that off, and I will turn the atmosphere off too, so it helps me to see what's in the sky. And then I will turn this azimuth grid on, and this will give me a precise location for the object that I'm trying to catch. So I'm going the long way to look east here, but what we're going to do is we'll look straight east, and you can see I've got time and day down here. Now this doesn't, since the atmosphere is turned off, this is daytime, and obviously it's not going to look like that right now. But we'll go down here on our hours, and so we're looking for, and of course I already have a pretty good idea of where Orion's going to rise and what time. And so there is Orion, okay, or Orion's belt. Here's the Orion Nebula. So what this is telling me is that at 8 o'clock, 8:39 specifically, that the 0 line, okay, is the horizon. And at 8:40, we can turn this on and off, that Orion's belt will be just above 10 degrees altitude. And on my azimuth, I'm looking at 103 degrees. Okay, and so, you know, this was a pretty easy one. It's the reason I decided to go with this one to try to put together a video. It's something I've considered for a while, but you know, sometimes the plan is a little more complicated. And so what we'll do is, you know, we can cross-reference this information with PhotoPills and Google Earth, but this gives me an idea of what direction I'm going to be looking in, and at what time it'll be, say, high enough in the sky to actually image. And so again, we'll just look at right here. We got about 100 degrees on our azimuth angle, and 10 plus 13, 14 degrees on our altitude angle. Okay, so let's go to Google Earth, okay, and so we're going to sort of scout. So you know, the plan is to get Orion rising somewhere on the scenic highway, which is this loop of highway that runs here, and you saw some of that, Route 150. And so we're going to be looking east. So, you know, we position ourselves anywhere on the road here. This is a great tool for scouting out a spot to shoot. I mean, the scenic highway is, Well, it's scenic. That's why they call it that. But it's a great place. Super dark skies, so that's what we need tonight to get Orion. But let's just see here. If I zoom in, there's some overlooks in here somewhere. Of course, if it's on the road, then I can actually drop myself. Drop this little guy down here, and you'll see it'll light up blue. Of course, I can drop this guy anywhere. I mean, let's just drop him right here, and I'll just, so you can see what this does. And so this puts me in that position, okay? And I'm looking around, and so there I would be looking east. Now, if you're in this mode here, what this doesn't account for is the trees. So you might say, oh, I'll position myself right here and looking east. So that would, straight east would be somewhere in here. And then at 100 degrees, of course, 90 degrees is east. 100 degrees is somewhere in this direction. But what this doesn't account for is the trees. And so you might position yourself there. On here, it looks good. You get there in real life, and there's a giant tree right in your way. Okay, so let's just jump out of this, and I'll show you something really cool here. Is if we're on the road or somebody has done a 360 degree a view of a particular location, they've uploaded to Google Earth, you can drop this guy, it'll turn blue. Sometimes you'll see little blue dots on here. You drop that guy on there, and you're going to get a real life view of that location. So again, super cool. If you're trying to plan, maybe you're going to go on vacation, it's somewhere you've never been, or you just don't have time to go there in person and actually scout the location out before you shoot. This is about as good as it gets, okay? And so I can actually see what the view is going to be like from this location. Again, we can see there that's looking straight out east. So that's not necessarily the composition we want to go with. So we'll jump out of here. And again, I've already sort of done my homework, to speak. Something I never did in school. So I know where I want to shoot tonight, and there's a field here. We can find it, and we'll zoom in. And here's my field. Okay. So I'll drop my guy right in here, right on the road. Getting snapped. And here's my view. So looking straight east, I can see that, this would be 90 degrees, 100 degrees is right in here. And so, of course, this doesn't give me an exact horizon line. And so, we talked about 0 degree being the horizon line. Well, that's only true if it's perfectly flat. So, if you're shooting the top of a mountain, the horizon line is not 0. So then you're going to have to determine, what is the top of the mountain, and what's the altitude degree of the top of that mountain from the position that I'll be standing. And so we've sort of got part of the story here. We can see a decent composition. We know, about what time we need to shoot. It'll be probably between 8:40 and 9 o'clock is what time we'll start. And just according to how things are looking, how things are framing up once we get up there, we'll make a decision on that for sure. But probably between 8:40 and 9 o'clock. So now what we'll do is I'm going to, we'll jump into PhotoPills, and let's record this. Okay, and so I've already set my position here in PhotoPills. And what you'll see is the orange pin is me, okay? And then I've even got, you can see the lens that I plan to use. And so let's say I wanted to use a 15 millimeter. So that gives me the view that I would have with that. And then we'll change to back to 28, which is what we plan to use. Also, I've got my cameras in here so I can pick which camera I plan to use. We'll be using a modified 6D tonight, and so this gives me the framing. So let's talk about that horizon line a little bit. So if I drop this black pin here, the black pin somewhat represents the subject that you're going to shoot. So let's just drop the black pin there at the tree, and if you look up here, you'll see the altitude difference, and that's showing me that it's the black pin is about 0.48 degrees higher than the orange pin where I'll be standing. So basically, you're looking at flat ground. And what I tend to do, if I'm curious about the horizon line, I'm looking at Google Earth, and I can see that it looks relatively flat. There's a couple of hills left and right, but I can actually take this this black pin, I'm sorry, and drop it out along this line and sort of get, okay, so we can see at that point it's 0.77 degrees lower. So again, pretty well flat. And as I go on out, I can see that I'm more or less looking downhill. Now there is a hill off here to the right, and I can drop the black pin there. Let's see, and might get, so basically it looks like I'm looking, you see it's negative 1.59, but more or less downhill. So what that's telling me is that when I go back in here to Stellarium, then 0 basically is what I need to be looking at. Now, it may be a mountain out in front of me, and the top of the mountain, based on PhotoPills, would be, at 10 degrees, okay? Well, then, of course, I'm going to have to account for that, and the object in the sky needs to be at least above that 10-degree mark in order for me to catch it. And there's a lot of jumping back and forth between these programs, and you might look at one and you say, okay, well then, if this isn't going to work, I can take my, let's see, I can take my orange pen, I can move this, and then so now, my subject is at this angle, or, and so I can look at this, and this is telling me right here, the orange being me and the black being my subject. I can look up on top and I can actually see what's the azimuth angle. So you can see the azimuth angle here is 65 degrees. And so, okay, so, if I'm shooting Orion, it needs to be closer to 90, so I need to position myself there. And so, you gotta sort of jump back and forth between these three programs to really put together a plan and know exactly what you're going to shoot. But it's well worth it, and it's an absolute must before you get out there and you just roll. I'm gonna roll the dice and hope for the best, and see if we can get a good picture. You got to know what your framing is going to look like. Okay, so another super cool tool here in Stellarium, and we'll jump back in, is this will actually give me, of course I can just sort of imagine what my framing is going to look like, but in order to really understand the framing, I need to get the field of view in degrees for my camera, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. There is a site. Let's jump on here and we'll look at this site, and there's probably more, but this is the Sky at Night Magazine.com astronomy field of view calculator, and I use this all the time, and there's probably more online. Heck, there's probably an app you can use, but this works. It's accurate. So I'll go here and I'll put in 28 millimeter, and then it'll allow me to pick its Canon camera, Canon 6D, and then there is my field of view in degrees. Okay, and so we can look at, okay, so east being 90, approximately 65 degrees. So let's just keep it simple and go 30 and 30. So you're looking at from the 60 mark here all the way over to the 120 mark here. So that sort of gives me my framing and how much of the sky I'm going to have. So we can see right here's the Rosette Nebula. We're going to catch it. That's cool. And so this is sort of the winter Milky Way coming up. Here's Mars. We'll catch it. But if you're using the actual application on your computer, I don't think there's a way to do it. If you're using Stellarium, there's an app on your phone you can install. I don't think there's a way to do this on there, so you just sort of have to use your imagination. But if we go to this image sensor frame, and I've already got it set up in here, that it has my camera, which is a 6D, so it doesn't have a lens. Let's look here. Okay, so we're using a 28 millimeter telescope, which is, well, it's not a telescope, but it's a lens, but we'll run with that because it's right. So, and if you look down here, you'll see 65 degrees by 46 degrees, which was exactly what we saw on the calculator just now. And so, again, let's say we center east up, and we can see exactly what we're going to catch there. Now, the plan is we'll shoot the foreground, probably something like this, centered up. And then we're going to shoot a vertical panorama, and I'll talk about that just a little bit. I'm not really going to get into the shoot that much. We'll go up, we'll try to get some video of the shoot and see how accurate we were. But this is all about the planning, okay? And once it's done here and you understand what your plan is, barring clouds or a tree in your way, it'll work. So we can see here. So what we plan to do is, shoot this. We'll shoot the foreground, and then we'll probably pan up a little bit, catch a little bit of the foreground, because we'll be tracking the sky. And we want to see where the foreground was. Of course, the foreground gets blurred in the tracked image, but it still gives us a pretty good idea of how and where to place the sky in order to keep it as accurate as possible. But we're also going to do a vertical panorama. So we'll shoot here, and then we'll pan straight up, and then we'll pan straight up. Probably 2 or 3 positions there in order to catch. And you can see up here we've got the Pleiades, and the California Nebula will be right there. Okay, so about 60 degrees. So again, the field of view for my camera is about 46 degrees up and down. So in order to catch all that, we'll have to do a vertical panorama. I've been trying to shoot this foreground for the last 20-30 minutes. It's hunting season, and so all the hunters are headed out. So usually you don't see a car ever up here. You might see a passing car once an hour. But right now it's just been constantly, so I've been in and out of the road, in and out of the road. It's been interesting trying to get this foreground. I sort of knew this was what was going to happen. I sort of anticipated it. So we'll do what we can do, and hey, that's all you can do. Do what you can do. Mic check. Mic check, 1, 2. Mic check. All right, so this is where the fun begins. We're set up with a tracker, polar aligned. The camera is framed up, same direction we shot the foreground. Looking at the sky here, I can see Mars rising. I can see Pleiades. I know you can't see any of that, but it looks like we're lining up exactly the way we anticipated. Otherwise, we just scrapped this video. But it looks like we're good. So we'll have to wait for a while. It's just about 7 o'clock. And the sky will be in a position we want it sometime again between 8:40 and 9 o'clock. So we'll try to grab a little bit of footage of the imaging session there so you can sort of see how we do that. It'll be cool, but again, looks like our plan was good. So talk to you later. Real quick, I'll show you what my setup is here. I'm connected via USB to my camera, to my laptop. I'm using Canon Utility. All right, so we're shooting the sky. Take the bottom section, raised up another 15 degrees, getting the second section up. Another cool thing about using Canon Utilities, I can sit in the truck, stay warm. So looking at our screen here, this is the Canon Utilities control panel, or whatever the heck you want to call it. But I can go in here and look at the photos I'm taking. So this photo just come through, so looks great. We can see there's Mars, here's Orion. If we look at the bottom section that I just finished, here's one of the shots. Tons of planes, but you can see here's Orion, the Rosette Nebula. So pretty much what we anticipated. So guys, thanks for watching, and clear skies, nerds.